Back in World War II, 10 young men flew many missions together in B-17 bombers. They lived together for a year and between them received 2 Purple Hearts, a soldier's medal, and a lot of memories. It's been 41 years since Clancy's crew have seen each other. As Debbie Enblum reports, their reunion in Stillwater this weekend may be their most successful mission yet.
Vanilla wafers that tasted just like gasoline, remember?
Although members of this bomber crew are gathering this weekend in Stillwater, they might as well be back at the base in Foggia, Italy. The fighting 15th Air Force, well, part of it, is reunited after 41 years. Vince Parker worked to bring them together.
There's 10 fellows on a crew. I found 5. 2 were dead. 2 we can't find. And 1 couldn't make it because of illness, you know.
The men have flown here from New York, Oregon, Virginia, and Montana. Back in 1945, they shared the same tent for 11 months. David and Alan took the same plane together to Minnesota for the reunion. On their last flight together, Alan saved David's life.
But the last mission I flew was down here and I quit flying. And that was April 12, 1945, the day that President Roosevelt died. So I'll never forget that day.
The crew's plane had been shot by the Germans. They landed at their home base with 2 of their plane's engines burning. They crashed into some C-47s near the runway, and David was badly hurt.
And I yelled to Alan, I said, Alan, give me a hand putting out these fires. And he came running over, threw me on the ground, and rolled me around and put out the fire.
Clayton didn't even know David was still alive, which made for a great thrill at the Twin Cities International Airport.
And so when he walked up to me in the airport, I couldn't believe it. And it was just a great feeling to know he's here.
So this is, did you see the seat?
The bond that was formed between these men cannot be broken. And although only 5 of Clancy's crew are present here today, they've enough spirit for all 10.
And we lived as a family, and we were a close family. And I think we're still just about as close.
In Stillwater, Debbie Enblum, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
These are my guns.
And you were able to keep your chute on the whole mission, or did it fit?
What I would do is I would put it on one link.
Okay, and throw it to the side.
And I did that to keep my flak suit here. If I had it on.
Oh yeah, you didn't have ladders.
No. And it was simple. No, I can't even do the ladders.
Well, you're still a thin guy.
Yeah.
Getting me in there is another story, especially through the bomb bay.
I banged my head on that thing 4 times yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, they probably didn't have air conditioning units in back then, did they?
No. Well, it was cold up there, 50 below 0.
Oh yeah, you had your own natural air conditioning.
I don't know what to grab here. Lucky I'm young. No. Maybe I could use a hand.
Is there somebody up there?
I forgot that it was this small.
I tried to get in this the first time I worked on it. Gosh, I weighed about 40 pounds more than I do now.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Bombay.
It is tight in here.
Pilot seat, you betcha. Yeah. Hi, Clancy. Hi, Woods. That's me. And the engineer stood right here.
He did?
Yeah, and he stepped up here in that upper turret.
How high was that seat? That seat must have been about this high then?
The seat where he was?
Yeah, for that turret.
You need help getting out when you leave? Yeah, he had to get his head in there.
Right.
Yeah.
You need help getting out when you leave?
And the most valuable guy on the aircraft was the engineer. Even the pilot would admit that. He knew everything.
Okay.
Yeah, he could fly right seat. And he took a little extra training, see. And my engineer was my best friend. He was constantly getting bombs out or keep slicing cables or putting out a fire or whatever it was. And
putting out a fire, yeah.
Yeah, and he was there's a co-pilot has some switches. I think there's some CO2 over here in the right wing. That's where they.
Okay.
Yeah, that you can push a button and it would maybe throw some seat to the
Start mash, engine, oil filters. I don't know if they're still there or not.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to move up here. I guess there's somebody coming in.
You can stay up here.
Yeah, you can stay up here if you want.
Yeah, you know, I want to see something here. Where's the fuse box? There's the fuse box that was on the bulkhead here.
Maybe they updated
for the landing gears and stuff.
Might be behind that. Is that panel open right
now?
there?
Yeah, well, wait a minute. There they are.
Oh, yeah.
My engineer wanted to make me assistant engineer one time. It's kind of a joke because I'm the tail gunner, see.
Ah, okay.
So he opened his fuse box, took out a fuse or two, and then we shut it, showed me how to crank up a wheel in case it, you know, one of these. So on the takeoff, we left the hard stand and we went down to get in position, and Clancy hit the brakes and they didn't work. So we fired up 2 and 3, and so he wouldn't hit that bomber ahead of him. There's a little dip there. We ran into another bomber. Our wing hit a guy, and he was on number 4 or 1, whatever way that, and he fell off that deal. Guess what? They did. Oh, they really had a big. I got stuff. I'll show it to you. Mm-hmm. Who they interrogated and this and the Clancy. They had to make him do another ride, you know, because of this and stuff. Well, my engineer wrote a story about that. He said when I made Parker, the assistant engineer, he forgot to shut the door on the fuse box and shorted it out. And that's all in the. And nobody knew that that's what happened. They just thought that. So what they did, they changed it, instead of metal, they changed it to this right here.
Oh.
We actually changed
the design of the airplane. The design
of the B-17 we were responsible. And I've got that story you may want to hear.
Wow, that's great.
All stuff like that happening all.
Look at all, I don't know how people keep track of all this. All this gauges, and you had to have 3 guys, I suppose, to...
There's 275 miles an hour. Is the danger line. Should be a red line on there.
On the airspeed indicator?
Yeah, on the airspeed indicator.
Where is it?
Where is it?
Just a second, RPM.
It's over there.
Oh, airspeed over there, and there's a red line at 275.
See, 275.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, there's also an emergency bell at the pilot's knee. It used to be anyway, and it has to be the same. Mm-hmm. And he kept telling us, don't jump out till you hear the emergency bell, and he could just click it, see. We never heard it, but we thought we were going to.
Well, you weren't in the right spot to hear it because they didn't wire it up.
See, the bell didn't reach the tail.
No,
maybe you heard me talking about it. I don't know. The compartment was there, but the circuitry didn't get there, and I don't think the ball turret guy could have read
the ball turret guy. He couldn't even get out, could he? Or is that the other? Is that one of the other bombers where they actually get in on the ground and can't get out?
He'd get off in the air. He'd get in and out. Yeah, he never got. He would open it up on the ground and maybe do some things. See.
Okay.
But what you do, you crank it up in emergency because it was electrical. See, and the radio guy was in charge of it in case of a problem. And so I rode the ball several times, in trainings. Mm-hmm. So there were some handles over your head, and there were some push buttons for your guns. And there was so much crap in there, the visibility wasn't as good as you'd think. Mm-hmm. There was a bulletproof glass down here, a round one. You see that on the end of it.
Yeah.
And maybe the tail gunner would say 530 low, and so then he'd go to that position because he couldn't see that, see? All the housing. And then the hand charge, there were a lot of pulleys in there to get the shell in the gun and stuff like that. So what you would do, you'd go like, and you'd come up, and you'd open 2 winglets, throw the door open, and then you'd step out of the ball to get into the plane.
Okay.
And then you drop it and redo it. And if you had trouble, if the radio man was around or if he wasn't wounded, you could, Is it hot in here?
It is. Let's keep moving.
With all this hot air going through the... Oh, yeah.
Watch your head, man.
I see so many things. We always bombed between 25 and 28,000.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And was there a strategical reason for that? I'm sure there is.
Well, you couldn't get through here with your parachute.
No.
There they are, 500-pound bombs. Yeah.
So this is 500-pound. No, that's a 100-pounder, isn't it? On the you had 500-pounders. They only have 100-pounders in here.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Yeah. The others.
You had a bigger bomb.
Yeah. Well, we had 6. We had 12. Then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can put 12 500-pound bombs in. Wow!
Well, you guys had to fit through here.
Yeah.
I'm just barely getting through some of these spaces.
See all this stuff here?
What is that, radio? Or?
Well, this is the radio over here, and some of those other instruments. And here's where the flag jamming equipment was.
Oh.
Yeah, and we didn't have these chairs, you know, this is for people flying.
Yeah.
We'd sit in crash position that day when we crashed it on. My ball cutter got the Purple Heart sitting in my lap.
Huh.
He crashed right into all of that when we went forward, and I've got the story on that.
Oh, they got some kind of tape recorder. Oh, here's the ball.
Yeah, there's the ball. Faust was there. Faust was a great singer. He looked like a pugilist. We, all the cartridges dropped on the floor, empty, you know.
Uh-huh.
And this was the, they didn't have this kind of a sight on this gun when I was there. They had it maybe a compensating sight. You pick up the
was this like a later sight or something?
Yeah,
or?
it was, and I didn't have a sight like that, so the oil buffer unit's back there.
Now, I know nothing about 50s. I never had any training on those.
Yeah.
What did you have to be careful of?
Well,
this is just to get the shell into the thing, and then you cleaned it up with opening this?
Yeah, when you'd open this to get the shell in, and you hand charge the gun, it would come up. No, and then you'd put it down, and there was a lever that put it in here, and once they got in there, started to fire, it all happened automatically.
Yeah.
I've got the gunner's book, some of that stuff they don't read.
Now the ball turret, you had like a cable or something you had to pull to crank it the first time?
Yeah, to get the, there was a lot of mechanism down there that you had to fire, you had your feet. It was the way you handled the sight and distances and stuff, because it was really kind of involved. And
you know, Ralph Pettijohn said a 20 millimeter shell went right through. That's the oxygen?
Yeah.
The shell went right through that thing while he was in the ball.
Okay.
And you know, it's amazing he's alive when you think about that.
Oh yeah. Stuff like that happened all the time.
So these are actual, like, the cables move, you think?
Yeah, this is for the, you know, the elevators and the aileron and stuff like that.
So it was an entirely mechanical movement of cable.
Oh yeah.
There wasn't much electronic or electric.
No.
I suppose the only hydraulics was getting the landing gear up and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Hydraulic fluid was for the brakes, and now this tail's. What I would do once we got to 10,000 feet, we would go to our battle stations. We had to get on oxygen. So I'd push my parachute ahead of me and wiggle past the tail wheel and get up into my spot, sit on the bicycle seat, put this, strap myself in, hook up, you know, my communications, my oxygen, my heated suit, and all that stuff. And every movement was just a measured movement, and then begin to scan the sky. I had a phenomenal view because that horizontal stabilizer was behind me.
Yeah.
And in this model especially, the old pinched Model AF was harder to see out of. So the Bombardier and I had two of the best views in the plane. This guy had a half a view. The pilot was looking out at the wing.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you could see I could look through here and look through the radio room. You didn't see that's the radio room floor.
Yeah.
I could see that he was down. And patching, he was an armament gunner, and he was on this side over here. And this guy here was a heavy set guy. Thornton, in fact, when we crashed, we all, those of us back here, fire and dust all over the place, and we rushed. And fortunately, we were able to open that door. It wasn't messed up. And Thornton was the first one out, that big guy, and he fell down, and we all went over him. And I ran out and onto the airfield. We were right next to the landing pad. And guess what? I turned and ran right into the radio guy who was right behind me. We fell down. I'm the only guy I know that was chased down the runway by a B-17.
Must have been a sight.
Yeah, and then I looked back. I can't explain the carnage that was going on. And even shells were exploding because of the heat. And Thornton was laying down there. And so I asked South one day, what did I do when we looked back? He said, you ran back and got it. I needed him to say that. So, but I couldn't. And then the fireman came along and grabbed him and me and said, get out of here, you know, and pulled us out of there.
Yeah.
And they had, you saw the film, I gave that to you.
Yeah, yeah,
and,
wow.
Yeah, and
total carnage and chaos with that, all the fire and everything going on, the smoke.
Just think of that. My Davis out hatch, and an oxygen bottle, I think, exploded, and he was a torch. And he yelled at, well, you saw that, and he yelled to South, help me, I'm on. South ran over and rolled him in the grass, and South caught on fire. That's how he got in the hospital. The pilot and co-pilot both went out those little tiny windows up there and dropped on the wing.
Yeah.
I think the co-pilot, it wasn't our regular co-pilot. We didn't always fly with the same crew. Most of the time, South kicked his parachute harness to get him out of there. He did so many things. That guy should have had at least a Silver Star. He got soldiers' medals and stuff like that, Purple Heart. But then there it was, on fire, everything. Well, we went to the dispensary and they checked us all out. Ogle was all cut up, his face from going, and went back to our tent. And Ogle has sutures in it. Back in 1997, he was at a meeting with some, I think maybe the VFW, and they said, would you get those scars during there? I said, did you get the Purple Heart? No. He said, they talked to us about it. He said, well, you earned it. So he did, and I wrote a letter, and I have a picture of him with the sutures.
And he got the Purple Heart. Oh, that's great.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And he earned it. After the war, he worked with the state and jumped on parachutes, parachuted on fires, you know. See.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. Oh yeah. He made quite a few jumps. Working for the DNR. Well, I don't know. And the pilot went home. He was Catholic, and he had, I think, 9 or 10 kids. I got a neat picture of him with his family. He was gone before my reunion.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we take off with 12 500-pound bombs, and they weren't armed because they had a couple procedures to arm them. Either the bombardier or the armament gunner, who was Apache, flew over here, and would go to the bomb bay. Before we got to altitude, we'd have to stay in our positions with our ushers, and he'd take out the cotter teeth in the nose fuse and in the fuse. So he had to have 24 of those in his pocket. So after we landed, he'd have to turn those in to prove that those bombs were armed when they went out of the ship.
Huh, okay.
Well, they still weren't armed until the bombs away. Then the shackles would open, and there was a wire that ran through the nose and the tail wheel, a copper wire that was hooked up on the shackle that stayed there, and that armed those two fuses.
Yeah.
And after some 500 revolutions, those they would drop off, and the bomb was armed.
Yeah.
And it was set for.
So they had a couple of protections so it didn't go off on impact or something. Well, we should go to the back and take a look at the.
Yeah.
It's cooler outside, I think. You want me to get out first?
To think that be able just to hop out these things. Hey, you're doing great.
Here, if you need a hand, let me know. Yeah, back in the day, you just go right through those.
Oh, yeah. We just jump right up. I can hardly get out. Help? Thank you. No.
Yeah, let's go back in there. So the G had the distinctive, like the chin turret, and was the were you in a G?
Yeah, this is the G, the Cheyenne turret they call it. Made in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay.
And the F was pitched down. The F had the sight was outside of the aircraft. It was a post and ring. But this one was all lit up.
Was it canvas covered, or was that a really early one?
Yeah, they had canvas around the gun so that air couldn't get in there, you know.
Yeah.
And then I had all this. I had my throat mic like a gardener.
Yeah.
That I would, so I could communicate. And then the heated suit was hooked in, and all these things, you know, that you had to do. So I was pretty much isolated, and I couldn't. There was an emergency bottle right over my head. I don't know if there's one in there or not. I know they got something on. Good for maybe 10 minutes. In the event my line was severed, I could reach over there. If my blinker stopped, that's a signal to get some help, because within a couple of minutes you're gone. You know, it doesn't take long without oxygen. So you reach over and snap that in, and get out of there and go back to the main source. I think there was a few sources where you could plug in that we generally use. You know.
Yeah.
And the day that we had to dive to save the radio guy, my ball turret gunner wrote a book about that, and he got a little different story in there that I remember. You know how we see it from different angles, see? Yeah. And he said that the circuitry went out on that side. Well, that means some others would have been out of oxygen too. And I thought that Faust had a piece of shrapnel cut his line.
What did the circuit? Oh, you mean the air circuits? You mean not? They weren't electrical. You're just talking about the air line was cut.
Well, I mean, there's a bottle with oxygen in it. It was under pressure, and it was hooked up to the.
Okay.
And there was a little blinker there that every time you took a breath, you could see you were getting oxygen.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't know. Maybe I've told you that story, but I did. I would, when the shells were exploding over the target, always they did. Everybody put on their flak suits and their parachutes and talk to each other, and we would kid around this. We were young, you know, and so I would wiggle past my ammunition boxes. There's an escape hatch over there. You see it? I'm the only one that had his own escape hatch, right there.
The one right in front there.
Right here.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a little handle I could turn. There were two little red things pins you had to pull out, turn the handle, and you could out.
So you could bail out and go
right
out
from there.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I enjoyed. That was a good feeling.
Yeah.
And
did you ever have to bail out?
No, I came close. There's several times that we thought we might have to, but we didn't. Well, then I did something else, and she'll appreciate this. My mother, on Christmas Day, we went over Brux in Czechoslovakia, and Captain Brensing, he had to be leading the group because they called him Fearless Joe Brensing. and I got in position behind
B-51.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Those Tuskegee guys escorted us. I was in Italy. Yeah. The Red Tails. Yeah. On seven of my missions, I put them together. And I'd see them go by, but I didn't know they were black. You know what I mean? We were just little pieces of history.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going on. No. We just wanted to get home and do our job. Well, anyway, so back to that incident. Finally, I had my mother give me a wristwatch, and I would always time it. Once you get on the bomb run and the IP, it always was dangerous. Shells explode. But it was from 5 to 15 minutes. You were over where the bomb site was down here. Okay. So we had to ride down, drop our bombs, and then rally off the target. Well, I'd get there, and I would have my oxygen hose stretched around the ammunition box because there was a blinker there. Every time I took a breath, I could see that I was getting oxygen, see. And I was a bit of a character. You can almost discern that now. And I would fantasize to kind of push the fear away that was my girlfriend back in Ortonville kissing me. I'm 19 years old, see. So then, bombs away. I'd hear that. The ship would lift. We always usually carried 12 500-pound bombs, and we'd bomb between 25 and 28,000 feet. Then we'd rally off the target and head for home. And over Czechoslovakia, over Yugoslavia, let's see. Yeah, Yugoslavia one day, we got out of enemy territory. We got down to where we could get out of oxygen. We went back to the radio room for our lunch. See, and lunch was frozen Spam sandwiches and ice cold coffee because it was 50 below zero up there.
Yeah.
And one day, our radio man, he was the one that was in charge of it, and there was an ammunition box where we had the lunch. And so he'd always pour it out, surprise, and we'd always get the same thing. And then one day there was nothing in there, surprise. So Patchy, one of the waist gunners, grabbed his parachute and headed for the waist, you know. And all of a sudden he found it underneath the blanket, underneath his table. See, this is the crazy stuff.
Sudden discovery when his parachute's gone away out, huh?
And landing was, like I was telling him, like getting your life back. And they gave us 2 shots of whiskey.
There you go.
And I didn't drink.
I was on the St. Louis County Rescue Squad as a deputy sheriff.
Okay.
It's close to getting in the military. When you're out there, you know, putting yourself in harm's way to help other people.
Yeah.
We come back from airplane crashes, drownings, whatever. We always would sit down. We'd all have a nice big stiff drink of whiskey and we'd sit and talk about it. Debrief. You had to do it. You had to do it.
Yeah, you betcha. I didn't drink. I was a teetotal because I was just a kid, you know. So I poured it in a vino bottle and hid it behind the clothes rack in the tent. Well, one day I came in and my engineer was sitting on his cot, had my jug between his knees, and he said, "Hey Parker, how would you like a drink on you?" That's the way we were.
Well, I tell you what, if we had one right here now, I'd toast you for saving all our lives and keeping Hitler from running the world.
Oh, yeah.